The phrase government shutdown describes what has become one of the most dramatic events in our politics, at least in Washington. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has assumed the lead role in 2023's version, supported by the delightfully named Republican Dysfunction Caucus.
Is the Speaker's job on the line?
Yes, it is.
We understand the concern about paychecks not going out to Border Patrol agents and the like, but the government shutdown scenario usually evokes images of Washington, D.C. itself turning into a ghost town. Guess what? It's already empty.
We've heard reports of VA employees who are doing their work from a bubble bath.
President Biden asked his cabinet officials to urge workers to return this fall. But the reality is, of the nearly 300,000 federal workers in Washington, most aren't bothering to show up these days. Worse still, a recent GAO report says government agencies spend about $2 billion annually to operate federal offices, regardless of the building's utilization.
We assessed the extent to which 24 agencies utilized their headquarters buildings in January, February, and March of this year. What we found was that all 24 of those headquarters buildings had extra space, and that most agencies were using less than 25% of their headquarters capacity on average.
The spectacle of the nation's capital devoid of workers raises a familiar issue dear to conservatives. Move Washington out of Washington. One could even say they have the support of the GAO.
In the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic, the federal government has a unique opportunity to reconsider how much office space it really needs.
Clearly, the answer is less. Republicans for years have believed that after decades of liberal inbreeding, the permanent Beltway establishment is determined to kill any conservative policy initiative. They've even introduced bills such as the Drain the Swamp Act of 2021, which, quote, repeals the requirement that all offices attached to the seat of the federal government be exercised in the District of Columbia, except as otherwise expressly provided by law.
We're going to be issuing an edict to all cabinet secretaries to reduce the footprint of their agencies in Washington, D.C. by at least 50%. Fire people, attrition, send them to Dubuque, whatever you want to do. But we have too much consolidation of power in Washington, D.C., and we need to do something about it.
GOP candidates like Ron DeSantis are rightly making the issue part of their 2024 campaigns.
For far too long, this bureaucracy has imposed its will on us. It's about time we impose our will on it, and that's what we're going to do.
The Brookings Institution took up the issue a few years ago in a piece titled, "Moving Federal Jobs Out of Washington Could Work If It's Done Correctly." The article noted that many federal agencies have no evident reason to be near Washington itself.
I don't want to drain the swamp. I want to distribute the swamp.
2 months later, Andrew Yang made the issue part of his 2020 campaign.
Why are you employing hundreds of thousands of people in the most expensive metro area in the country? Why wouldn't you move some of those jobs to New Hampshire, Ohio, Michigan, Wisconsin, or another place? You'd save billions of dollars. You'd add jobs in a place that would be thrilled about it. And I would argue that the decisions that the regulators make would be better because they'd live someplace normal instead of in a bubble.
Paranoia about Washington aside, a new reality has overtaken this debate: telework, or working from home.
70% of federal employees reported that telework had improved productivity at their agency a great deal.
The controversy over office work versus work at home will persist. But the fact is that 75% of federal Washington workers have abandoned their offices and don't want to come back.
We're going to have a lot of trial and error through this process because we are shifting from the old workplace to the new workplace.
So why not start redistributing most of the federal workforce out across the country? Washington, with its great monuments and museums, would persist as a famous tourist destination. And anyone really determined to see an agency like the Federal Trade Commission would have to visit another part of the country, maybe Sioux City, Iowa.